Will we see the price of Bitcoin over 100,000 in 2024? And if so, is right now the time to buy, or should we be waiting? All right, ETF news is plastered all over financial news. Bitcoin is up over 166% in the past year. What we were talking about several months ago is now happening, and the calls we made in our Discord team are up huge. What we're seeing right now could quite possibly be the last chance to capitalize on the biggest transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. But we need to be able to navigate this in order to capitalize on the opportunity. All right, I've been through crypto cycles before, and I've been doing this a long time. So in this video, I'm going to discuss what really caused this Bitcoin movement, some of the key signals that I'll be watching for that could drive the price of Bitcoin significantly higher, a key concept that I've learned that throws a lot of people off that we're experiencing right now. And at the end, I'll show you a creative way that I'll be using all of these things to be able to make bank during this crypto bull cycle. Also, make sure you stay to the end because I'm going to be explaining a giveaway that I'll be doing. Okay, so if that sounds good, make sure you hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you like trading and investing. Check us out on Instagram, Discord, and TikTok. We have an amazing trading community. All right, so let's take a look at why Bitcoin has been making this move and why it's been performing so well. So from the beginning of the year over here in January of 2023, right now we're up about 165% year over year. This is important because this makes Bitcoin one of the best performing large cap assets in the entire world. Although what we have to remember is essentially this entire move on Bitcoin was almost exclusively driven by the news on the ETF speculation. So BlackRock, Bitwise, Fidelity, Invesco, WisdomTree, all pushing the SEC to allow a spot ETF, which means that when people invest in that ETF, it's actually going to interact with the spot price of Bitcoin, whereas these other instruments in ETFs don't actually have any correlation to the spot price of Bitcoin. They're just tracking the price of the instrument alone. This is a huge, huge deal. Now, from Bloomberg analysts, there's allegedly a 90% chance that these ETFs get approved in January. Obviously, if it's in Bloomberg, BlackRock's best interests to say that there's a 90% chance it's going to happen to drive the price up, that doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen because it's realistically not in their control to make that decision. All right, this is something really important to remember. I'm going to touch more on it a little bit later in the video. But one thing that we do know for certain is that there's an increase in activity and interest on the institutional side in crypto. We can see CME, which is Capital Markets Elite Group, is the leading derivatives marketplace for basically high net worth individuals and institutions to be able to trade derivatives. All right, and CME has reached an all-time high of 27.8% in relative dominance, surpassing Binance for the first time since the beginning of the bear market. This is an extremely important statistic. This is the first time ever in history that a traditional finance institution has passed the largest crypto exchange in trading activity. If this isn't something that's screaming towards mainstream adoption, then I don't really know what is. The only thing to remember about this, though, is that these are derivatives. These aren't actually interacting with the spot market, meaning that this isn't actually affecting the price of Bitcoin. It's simply people trading instruments that are representing the price of Bitcoin. This is going to change if there is a spot ETF. That's why the spot ETF is so important. All right, but let's take a deeper dive into the institutional interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole. So like we looked over here, we have BlackRock, WisdomTree, Invesco, Bitwise, Fidelity, all applying for these spot ETFs. Now, if we look, the total assets under management of BlackRock currently sits at about $10 trillion. We have Invesco reporting about 1.45 trillion in total assets under management. And we have WisdomTree also sitting at right around $1 trillion. All right, so we're looking at about 13 to 15 trillion dollars worth of institutional capital that could potentially be looking to get into the Bitcoin ETF. Now, I'm not saying that all of the capital is going to flow into Bitcoin, but even if we're looking at, say, 10% across the board of that, that's something that could essentially double the total market capitalization of Bitcoin, which in turn would essentially double the price of Bitcoin and send it up closer to the 100,000 mark. But that's just one element that we're looking at. All right, another really interesting key metric is the fact that about 70% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin has not been moved in over a year. Considering that an $850 billion asset has moved up 166% in the past year, you'd expect for some investors to be selling into that strength, but all the people that are holding Bitcoin are actually continuing to hold. Not only are they continuing to hold, but we're seeing the illiquid supply of Bitcoin at all-time highs, meaning that they're moving it off of trading exchanges into long-term holding exchanges and probably custodial offline wallets as well. This means that people that are buying Bitcoin and have been buying Bitcoin long-term have no plans of selling it. And this is really, really important because if you think about it, as Wall Street wants to get access to this, if the supply is really restricted from people who are not going to let go, this can drive the bid on Bitcoin continuously up and upbid the price to try to incentivize retail people and these other holders to sell it so that large institutions like BlackRock that own basically everything, they're trying to buy all the houses off the supply to increase mortgages. They're trying to buy all of the stock market. BlackRock is trying to capitalize the entire market so that civilian population doesn't own anything, and they're happy not owning everything. Everything is SaaS and rent, and the large entities own these things. The point is that Wall Street wants access to this and people aren't letting go, which is going to drive the bid price of Bitcoin potentially up, which in and of itself is a driving catalyst for growth. And if you think about it, people who are now in their 70s and 80s, all they had to do is buy real estate when they were in their 20s and 30s, and they were able to make astronomical amounts of money. But now a lot of those investment opportunities are out of reach for normal people. If we look at the buying power of the dollar on a CPI level since the 70s, the dollar has lost basically 50% of its value. We don't have those opportunities to buy into real estate now because that market is already being capitalized. This is one of those markets that, if we are right about our thesis, is going to be our generation's opportunity to have this investment. This is not financial advice. I'm not saying to do anything. This is personally my perspective. Okay, if you look at how much buying power the US dollar is currently losing, extend this out another 100 years and let me know what you think the buying power of the US dollar is going to look like versus an instrument that is literally a global asset that represents digital gold with a finite supply that now institutions are fighting over, that's about to have access to $13 to $15 trillion worth of institutional buy power behind it. All right, I'm making this video because if I'm correct about this, the wave of generation of people that are going to be understanding these things and partaking in this have an opportunity to generate wealth. People that look at this and say it's a scam and that it's never going to work out, maybe they're correct. But if they're not correct, they're going to be sitting on the sidelines on one of the biggest wealth transfers that the entire world has ever seen. All right, if you've noticed, the stock market is moving up extremely quickly now. The dollar is losing about 2% of its worth every single year. So you can see after 50 years, it gets cut completely in half. Money is literally becoming worthless. In my opinion, if the ordinary population isn't investing to some degree, there is no way that you'll be able to get ahead and be able to make sufficient money to survive where the world is going. This is sort of my Armageddon thesis, but still, these are the realities of the world in my opinion. Think about it this way: the total US traded companies is about $92 trillion worth of market capitalization. Okay, total gold market cap is about 13.2. The total cryptocurrency market cap is at 1.6 trillion. This is a global asset that is about to be packaged into a lot of people's retirement income, institutional ETFs. And right now, while the dollar is losing about 2% of its value every year, you can see the overall stock market is moving up by about an average of 10% annually. So we can see Bitcoin is currently sitting under the market capitalization of Nvidia, Amazon, Silver, Alphabet, okay, Saudi Oil, Microsoft, Apple, okay, and then gold is sitting at $13.2 trillion market cap. I'm going to get a little bit more into the projections and the math behind that, but understand that this is a global finite supply asset that these institutions are trying to get their hands on, and it's currently less than a tech stock listed on the US stock market. Let's just put that into perspective. So let's say that Bitcoin can get roughly to the size of Apple, or say roughly 25% of the market capitalization number that gold has, say even in the next 25 years, as we see 10% compounded onto the overall market capitalization of the US stock market in general, right? Let's look at those figures. All right, not adjusting for the increase of capital that will enter the market over this time horizon. That would make the market cap of Bitcoin about $3.4 trillion. And if we divide that by the current market capitalization roughly, that's going to give us a 4x in price times the current price of Bitcoin at the time of recording this video, would put the price of Bitcoin at around 175,000 per unit. And in 25 years, if Bitcoin can match the market capitalization of gold, right, we're going to be looking at around a $500,000 Bitcoin. Now, this is over the course of say 25 years. My point is that this is really not that unattainable, and we're potentially at the very beginning of a massive parabolic run for people to generate their wealth. I just want to remind you, this is the buying power value of the US dollar. All right, and just in case this wasn't clear, the US makes up 42% of the global market equity share. This is a big economy, and the dollar is dramatically losing its value. All right, let's also not forget that JP Morgan's analysts are projecting that the S&P 500 drops by about 25% mid-2024, and a lot of people are anticipating that by Q2 we'll have an interest rate drop on the federal level. All right, so right now, this is the Federal Reserve's interest rates. They're at basically the highest point that it's been since 1995, which means that the bond market in fixed income is extremely lucrative for institutional money. If we see this drop, say a couple percentage points, okay, that is going to mean that institutions are going to look for ways to preserve their dollar, which, as we've seen during COVID, means going more risk on with assets. But also, like we saw in COVID, the money supply will likely increase, which we've seen has sort of curbed as of lately as the interest rates are up. Okay, if this money supply continues to increase, that's also going to dilute the US dollar, which is going to make Bitcoin and gold a safe haven option for large institutional investors. You can see this is April of 2022 before we saw a 600 to 700% increase in the price of Bitcoin. All right, and then as soon as interest rates started moving up in the summer of 2022, this is where we started to see a more dramatic sell-off in the cryptocurrency market. The interest rate, in my opinion, is definitely going to dictate how much institutional participation is going to go into Bitcoin. The fact that we're getting this much momentum upwards right now in interest rate is at 5.5% on a federal level is a bullish sign to me. However, there's one big lesson that I want to share with you today that I've learned through going through bull cycles and from being a trader for almost 8 years now. Okay, of course, all of this news is extremely exciting and bullish on the use case for Bitcoin. However, what we have to remember is that stocks and instruments like crypto are forward-leading speculative vehicles. So when rumors come out and whispers come out, people are buying into the speculative nature of those whispers, and when the news or thing actually happens, it's already been price adjusted and sometimes can lead to sell pressure once the event actually happens. This is a phenomenon called buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay, I've seen this in so many different situations when big hype arises around things, which is what we're seeing on Bitcoin right now. Because even Grayscale is admitting that Bitcoin Trust could see 2.7 billion of outflow if the ETF conversion is approved. Okay, in addition, like we talked about, a lot of this move was institutional speculation, sort of pushing this news, pushing the speculation with their bags already fully loaded. Because the inflow after the spot ETF approvals is not guaranteed, right? We still need investors to flock into Bitcoin, to flock into cryptocurrency, and for individuals who say that they want exposure to actually want to get the exposure. Now, if this is less than what was anticipated, there could be a lot of shaky market conditions, and I've seen this so many times in history. So one good example of this was during Cardano. We actually called Cardano at 28 cents on the YouTube channel, went up to $2-3, and there was an update called the Alonzo update, if you guys remember. This was an update that was meant to introduce smart contract functionality into Cardano. News of this came out way before, and we saw a dramatic increase into that hype of about almost 200% on Cardano. Once the news dropped, we actually saw a massive sell-off in the price because people realized that it wasn't really going to change that much about the protocol if we didn't have the adoption that we were looking for, and that the speculation was already priced into the market. Something similar could be true with this Bitcoin move. We've seen this speculation rally around the ETF, and I just want to consistently remind you guys that back in 2019, when we got this run up in cryptocurrency after this big spike, we got a 70% sell-off before we saw the big push in 2020. I'm not saying that this is going to happen necessarily, but we have to understand that there is a possibility that this is a buy rumor, sell the news type of situation. All right, anytime I'm waiting for sell-offs in instruments, we can do it one of two ways. All right, so if we are to see a sell-off in Bitcoin, I'm going to be interested to see if we can do a wave structure count on this to be able to anticipate where the low will be. All right, we've been able to do this previously to get an idea on how low Bitcoin will likely go. All right, if this is a sell the news sort of situation, a lot of times with these trends, the continuation levels will happen somewhere around this 50 level on our fib here. So if you grab a Fibonacci retracement, start from the low of this move up to wherever the highest point on the trend happens. On strong trends, it can be this level. If you're getting a full retracement, it can be this level, and then a deep retracement will be the 78.6 zone. Now, my thesis has always been the same on Bitcoin. I want to personally have exposure throughout the whole thing, and anytime we are getting pullbacks, I want to save some capital on the sidelines to be able to deploy into dollar cost averaging, whether it's Bitcoin or some of these smaller assets that we called out in our Discord. If you remember from the previous video, I discussed beta coefficient, which is how strong a certain instrument is based on a comparative index. In this case, Bitcoin is our larger comparative index. I was calling out Solana at this level to the premium team. This is where I had added to my Solana position right here around 30 before we got this level to break, right? And this was at $32. And even before Bitcoin has come close to breaking all-time highs, I'm up over 100% on this position still. And then we also have Tau, which here I was explaining at $79. I think on the YouTube video, it was at 90. This is one of my most bullish altcoins for the bull market. Shout out to Axelo. I'll put the Twitter in the description description of the video. Okay, this is something that we're both bullish on, but he brought to my attention. I'm probably going to make further videos about this, but currently this position is up between 4 and 5x, well before Bitcoin is even near all-time highs. But what's interesting as well is if we compare this to the gold ETF, we can see the price of gold actually sold off for 2 months as the ETFs actually got approved. And then shortly after that, for the next 8 years, we saw a massive run in the price of gold. It eventually settled out, but we did see nearly a 4x in price and a massive bull run shortly after. So the question is, can Bitcoin increase another 200% to reach new all-time highs after the spot Bitcoin ETF? But either way, I'm a trader, so I'm going to be making money off of cryptocurrency regardless of the direction that it's moving. If it continues moving up, I want to store value for the long term and find high beta coefficient instruments to be able to invest into, sell, and then reallocate into Bitcoin. But even say that Bitcoin ends up making a high somewhere around here, meaning that this was our one wave down to 2, we had a 3, and even a retracement down back to 30K or something of this nature. On a smaller time frame, there are opportunities all throughout the market. And as a trader, I can go into a 3-minute time frame, identify areas where trends are going to break, find reversal levels, and be able to enter into areas where I can risk $1,000 on a trade and make anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 in profit if the trade moves in my direction. And once again, this is what we're doing on the private side of our community, regardless of the direction that the market is moving. But I'll leave you with this. This is a long-term vision that is going to provide a crazy amount of short-term opportunities within the next couple of years for people who are actually paying attention. My perspective is this could be a sell the news sort of situation to a degree in the short term, but we have BlackRock legitimizing the demand shock, and we have the halving cycle, which is going to shock the supply. Those things coming in tandem with potential dropped interest rates and a potentially rocky economy moving into 2024 could catalyze a massive run into Bitcoin. And I certainly want to have exposure in case this is the most significant wealth transfer that we've seen in the modern world. All right, as promised, in the end, I was going to do a giveaway. So here are the conditions. I'm going to be giving away 1 ticket to the full trading education in full premium access to my entire Discord server for someone who comments below wealth transfer. Okay, what I want you to do is screenshot you commenting wealth transfer, go over to the Instagram that is in the description of this video and DM me the screenshot of the picture with the word wealth transfer. Over the next month or so, I'm going to be picking one person and I'll be reaching out to you via Instagram. Now, there's a ton of scammers impersonating me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Be very careful. On Instagram, make sure that it is the link in the description of the video and that I have the verified mark. If I don't have either one of those things, it is not me and you need to block that account. But that's really all I got for today, guys. Also, let me know in the comments what you thought about the concepts in this video. If you're still here, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like trading and investing. And until next time, guys, I will see you all in the next video.